Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Eljay Johnsen Show. This show airs every single weekend, every Saturday at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. If you have any questions over the week, feel free to send them over to ljjohnson@gmail.com, and if you have any questions live, make sure to head on over to Twitter at the Eljay Johnsen and ask away. Additionally, toward the end of the show, we'll go ahead and open up the live YouTube chat for any questions that you may have. Okay. So I am incredibly excited for today's episode. Many of you in the audience right now may be familiar with a show called The Journey to One. It was a BIONICLE Netflix special, ran about 4 episodes, 5 if you count the kind of prelude. And I'd say it's divisive in the BIONICLE community, but I've always enjoyed it. So today, I'm incredibly happy to introduce one of the voices behind The Journey to One. You know him as Ekimu, Onua, Makuta, and our Moto and Izator. I'm talking about none other than William Jordan. How you doing today?
I'm excellent. Hello, Internet.
This is your first time, correct me if I'm wrong, being on kind of a live streamed anything, isn't it?
It is my very first time being on a live streamed internet show. So thank you for inviting me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here. I'm incredibly looking forward to kind of picking your brain about a ton of things. I'm sure that a lot of the individuals listening are as well. And I'm going to try and give you a good first impression of online live streamed web series. So if I lead you astray, for anyone in the future, that's my fault.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. In that case, let's go ahead and just get into things. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your life story, if you may, and how you got into basically everything you do now.
Okay. Well, my name is William Jordan, and I am an actor. I wasn't always an actor. I started out as a filmmaker. I went to school for film, specifically documentary film. That's what I thought I wanted to do, and I have. I've made a few. I've made a few documentary films up here in Canada, where I live. I live in Toronto, and but when I went to school for film, I thought that, well, if I'm going to be a filmmaker, it would be really smart to get a working knowledge of acting. So I took a theater class and discovered that really that's what I wanted to do. Like, I just sort of fell in love with acting. So I started to take more theater classes, and I started to get cast in plays, and I started to go out for auditions for film, for voice stuff. And it all sort of spiraled into where I am now. I'm a working actor. Any actor will tell you that most of that work is trying to get a job, doing auditions, trying to see what comes. And I think the reason why I'm here is I was cast as 4 characters in a Netflix Lego show, and that was tons of fun. And yeah, if there's anything you want to know, I will be happy to answer any questions.
Sure. Let's go ahead and dive into that a little bit and kind of dissect that history there. So, you didn't even initially start out wanting to be a voice actor. I know that a lot of the people that I am familiar with, and even myself, are the general thing we want to do is be voice actors, professionally, for cartoons, animations, you name it. What is the road to that like, or how was it for you?
Well, for me, acting is acting, really, in terms of its fundamental core, at the core base of it. What you sort of have to know about acting is present through whatever medium you're doing, whether it is film or voice or theater. And really, the choices you make could be very, very different, but the fundamental basis of it is the same. So how I got into voice acting was I got sent out for an audition in Manitoba. They were doing a very wide audition for a show that didn't end up getting made. But they really liked my voice. So I ended up doing a video game for them.
Oh.
And I learned a lot just by doing it. Like what kind of choices work well in voice as opposed to theater and film. But again, it's all sort of the basis is the same. Like it's not worlds different doing a cartoon than it is doing a play. There are, of course, differences. One of the major things is there's no one to act off of. And there's a lot more imagination. Like you're just doing your line. When you're finished with that line, you do the next one of your lines. So you're sort of having to imagine what the other person is saying. You're sort of going to have to imagine, oftentimes, the world you're in, what kind of what your character looks like, how you're going to portray that through your voice. You sort of have to let the voice, like let whatever space you're in melt away and sort of really use your imagination, which is one of the reasons why doing cartoons is so fun.
Interesting. That's fascinating. I've heard that a lot, that the through line is basically acting is what it is. It's you have to act basically. And especially, I'm sure you can
Yeah.
kind of clarify this specifically, but voice acting in and of itself, it's not about how many goofy voices you can do. It's about whether or not those voices can sound genuine, like you can actually act with them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's lots of people with unique voices, lots of people who can do different voices. However, you sort of are going to have to deliver a character that is real within the context of the world that you're trying to portray.
Hmm.
So it has to. They sort of have to be believable, or at least believable in whatever the world is. And yeah, you need and so yeah, you need to know how to act, and that's sort of that's the basis of it all. So, like I said, it's not an enormous leap to do theater, film, or to voice acting. There will be some growing pains. Like I said, there are choices you would make in a voice acting booth that you would never make if you knew you could be seen. Like certain things that'll help you emote and get there and feel how you need to feel that you would never make if you knew you could be seen.
Hmm.
Like I'm sure you must have seen footage of voice actors doing the voices that they do, and it's great when they're animated, but it looks kind of goofy when you can see them, right? Like, and I'm sure if they got cast in a movie doing that voice, what they'd be doing with their body would be different. So there is growing pains, but ultimately, yeah, the foundations are the same. It's all acting.
Interesting. Okay, and when it comes to being a voice actor, presumably, you're part of one of the guilds, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm ACTRA, yeah.
Okay.
That's the Canadian SAG.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. I see. Interesting. So let's
Yeah.
actually. Oh, go ahead, please.
Oh no, I was just saying that. Yeah, you guys have SAG, and up here we have ACTRA and Equity.
Okay,
And
they
yeah,
work
you sort
together, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
they do for co-pros. Sometimes sometimes you can hop over, but yeah, that's the sort of major difference is uh, geography.
Okay, interesting. Let's go ahead and kind of narrow in on one of the worlds, of course, and that being Bionicle. Were you at all familiar with the Bionicle theme prior to becoming a part of the project?
When I got the audition, I did a bunch of research because you sort of have to just to sort of get what the world is.
Hmm.
So I watched some of the movies, and there was a Wikipedia, which was very helpful. And ultimately, sort of what I learned was that the world that I would be going into, the Journey to One show, would be sort of a reboot. It's sort of a reimagining
Hmm.
of the previous story. And there was an animation that they did. It was actually a really nice animation. They ended up incorporating it in Journey to One, but it was this little like flash animation where all the voices were this one guy, and he does a great job. And so that one I watched a lot because that one sort of gave me the basis for what this new Bionicle world would be. But yes, I watched all the other films, just to sort of get an idea of what its past is, what's going on, what's the feel of it.
My goodness. That is an excellent amount of research.
Well,
That's,
yeah, you just to sort of, you gotta be able to picture it,
mhm.
and so those all helped me picture what I was getting into.
And that makes perfect sense. Have you seen the full final four episodes outside of the prelude, of course, which, as you mentioned, did incorporate the 2D rather animations? Have you watched the final product?
Yes, I have. It was actually really interesting because I didn't see it until it was up there. Like I read the script,
Hmm.
and when you read the script, obviously you have an idea of how it would look.
Hmm.
And then when you see it on screen, it's often totally different. And I don't know, I thought it was really, really cool what they did with it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I love the animation. I thought that the voices, with the maybe the exception of Liwa, but this is more of a personal kind of tongue-in-cheek thing, were all really excellent. So I think it definitely worked out. Have you seen any online reception, at least from maybe specifically the Bionicle fan base, pertaining to Journey to One?
The sort I'm one of those actors who very much believes don't read the reviews.
Fair enough.
So I haven't. I was invited to do a BSO1 podcast about a year ago. They got in contact with me. Again, I'm doing your show, so I'm totally happy to do whatever I can for the community, for people who love it. But if it, to me, if people really adore it, that affects your performance, and if people really hate it, that also affects your performance. So I try to keep it separate from myself. But I'll be happy to hear what is you said it's got sort of a mixed response.
Yeah, mixed, but the mixed part of it entirely lies within the story, and that's simply due to the fact that Lego had to kind of cancel a line before it kind of came to fruition.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
pretty much everyone loves how it sounds and loves how it animates. So that's all.
Well, that's good to hear because we had tons of fun with it.
It seemed like it, like that. This seems like kind of a like having worked in the community doing fun fan projects. It's always enjoyable to kind of be in that headspace. But it seems like this was an enjoyable time had by all.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. And like I said, when I watched it, I was really impressed with what they did with it. It was better than what I had in my brain. And whenever that happens, it's always a pleasant experience. It's always you breathe a sigh of relief and you're like, "Oh, it's cool. We're good."
Yeah, I can understand that. Real quick, speaking of BSO1, I do have a brief question pertaining to the wiki that you mentioned to do research on Bionicle with.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Was that BSO1?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, no, they're top of the game. If you need any
It was
information.
it was super super helpful.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
they're
it was a great resource.
oh, absolutely. The people that run it are incredibly accurate. The one of the original writers for the first 10-year run of the franchise, like he's quoted as saying, "If the information is not on Biosector 1, it doesn't exist." I'm
From
pretty
my
sure that's
experience,
accurate.
that has been totally accurate. It's a great resource. So if you're into that sort of, if you're into the Bionicle world, I would definitely say check that out. It was
Absolutely.
it was an invaluable resource when I was researching the role.
Yep. No, absolutely. Um, so pertaining to these specific roles, the specific characters that you
Yeah.
did voice, let's go ahead and pick them apart just a smidge, because I'm very curious to see kind of how you ended up getting into some of them. Some of them are incredibly well known and iconic. Some of them are new to this reboot, and we'll go ahead and
Hmm.
start off with that first one, which is Ekimu.
Yes.
With Ekimu, what was the general direction that you were given and the idea that you put forward into voicing not only his kind of like standard stubby form, but eventually when he powered up?
Yeah, well, Akimu was actually the first character that I auditioned for. As you mentioned, I ended up playing four characters, but Akimu was the initial one that I sort of went into. And to me, he sort of was like a wise trainer. I was sort of thinking like John Hurt, Alec Guinness sort of thing.
Hmm.
In my audition, I did it British because the animations, the prelogue, the prologue animations were
Mm-hmm.
the guy had a British accent, so I figured maybe this is sort of an Englishy world, and so
Yeah.
I did one read, and it was very much like what my final Akimu voice would be, but they were like, just take out the Brit. So there's still a smidge of it in there, but it's very slight. And yeah, so that was sort of my going into it. Was he sort of like the old wise master, and then when he powers up, it's there's more confidence and power behind it. It's the same voice but without the frailty.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I can see that, especially that afterwards he kind of just has to harden up, especially vocally. Okay.
Yeah, so it's more like way more pronouncements, and yeah, it was harsher.
Mm-hmm.
That was my favorite character to do, by the way.
Oh.
That was my favorite
Okay.
one.
That's interesting because the one that really stuck out to me is the last one I feel that we'll discuss here, or second to last rather. Um,
Okay.
as far as the next one, however, the next one is one of the main heroes of the story and one of the primary, as we call them, canister sets. Given that it's one of the
Hmm.
main six, kind of on all the promotional items. Onua.
Yes. Uh, and justly so. Anua was the one I bought for myself as a souvenir. He looks cool. Um, Anua, what I was sort of thinking was he's a rock guy. He's earthy. I was looking at pictures of him. He's usually big.
Hmm.
So I sort of was thinking like my lowest register uh, and sort of you know noble and grounded was sort of my overall thought. Was it's a very grounded voice,
Hmm.
you know.
That's
And
understandable.
this is just sort of the voice, the voice, like the just the elements of the cursory, how you came up with the voice
Yeah.
stuff. There's lots of other internal character stuff going on, but yes, that's sort of what I was thinking was a big, grounded, earthy voice kind of thing.
And it fits. I think that that's perfectly accurate, especially for him.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Pertaining to one of the four you said you were up for, BSO1
Hmm.
and BSO1, we're putting you to the test here. It says you've
Yeah.
actually voiced five of the characters, and I feel like two of them may have been accidentally lumped in. I'm not sure. They're listed here.
Yes, the two protectors. Yes.
Yes. All right. Narmoto and Izator.
Yes, the other that one was just one line, but yes, I that's true. I those two were different characters.
Fair enough. Okay. Perfect. All right. BSO1, you did it. Good job. All right. So
Yes, it slipped my mind because you're right. That was they threw in the last line.
mhm. All right, fair enough. And I figured that
Yeah,
was just kind of a basic anything you could really come up with to differentiate them as a kind of a generalized villager folk.
yeah. That one was sort of like that was the storyteller one, so they sort of liked. I had an idea of the voice going in, and they thought it sounded too young. So it was sort of the idea I sort of had going in, but I aged him up a bit. Very like storyteller, very much like it's a campfire story. So I thought,
Hmm.
you're telling a campfire story to kids.
Hmm.
So I used to have a job telling Greek mythology to kids. There was this museum in Manitoba where I used to live,
Hmm.
and they had this really cool thing where kids got to have sleepovers at the museum. So they got to
Wow.
spend the night at the museum. much like the Ben Stiller masterpiece, Night at the
Oh,
Museum. So,
that's
but
a good
I
movie.
would be their storyteller. So I'd tell them stories from history and Greek mythology and that kind of stuff. So that was me invoking that. Like I'm telling a story to a bunch of kids.
Hmm. Okay. I think that also worked out very well, and that makes a lot of sense because I don't know if a lot of people, which is kind of funny in a sense, where Bionicle, the movies, they always started out as being this kind of campfire, but I don't think a lot of people anticipated this kind of second generation of sorts to end with a campfire.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was really well done. I liked that bit.
Yeah, no, I thought it was clever. I know that there are a lot of other, maybe not necessarily meta reasons as to why it's a little divisive, but there are multitude of opinions, of course.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure, I'm sure.
All right, then the last one. This, if I had to say, while everyone was pretty content with how Ekimu and Onua sounded, I feel like the one most people remember and recognize, maybe not for all the right reasons, which I don't really think has anything to do with you per se, is Makuta, the big bad.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your headspace going into voicing not only the hero, but the main villain as well.
Well, for when I was finding Makuta's voice, I guess I was thinking, all right, so he's sort of like this ethereal spirit thing. The way the script described it, he was sort of like a flame in a cave. So I was thinking like, you know, deep and gravelly, like sort of like something you'd find in sort of in a as sort of like a spirit in a cave kind of thing. So
Mhm.
that was sort of my thought process behind it. So I sort of did, yeah, deep
Interesting.
and yeah, very growly, and it was a fun one to do as well.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine. Most
Just
people.
unleash all that anger and id, because that's all that guy is. He's just sort of like a spirit of vengeance.
Yeah, I can see that. A lot of people, whenever they. Maybe. Tell me if this was a scripting thing. Is this something that Makuta's most iconic line that people remember? And just tell me the direction here. Is at the very end when he's fighting against the six Toa, and his line is, and he's kind of fighting back against them.
Do you know what? I don't remember exactly, but it was probably something like scream or like guttural noise. It was probably something banal like that, and that was ended up how I interpreted it.
That's incredible.
Because there's a lot of that like struggle noise, and then you're like try to think of, okay, so this is the struggle noise, but
Hmm.
it was probably something like that. It was probably like Makuta scream.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic because yeah, that will often be circulated within discussions about Journey to One. A lot of people will discuss it and kind of go, well, Makuta, like his last line in this is like, and everyone gets a good laugh out of it. It's really fun. So I was really curious to see where that direction came from.
Yeah, it was probably my fault.
Ah, well, I've gotten many a good hearty laugh out of it, so I appreciate it. So, all right, that's fascinating. That's kind of interesting how you've gotten into all these kind of different characters. You've easily voiced the majority of the cast from this, and pretty much all the other voice actors that are at least accredited voice either one at the most two, but you have a clean five.
Yes. I don't know why they decided to do that, but everyone else they cast had a really good, unique voice.
Mm-hmm.
Like Quinn was in this show, Quinn Green,
Mm-hmm.
who, if you haven't talked to, that he's a fun person to talk to. He does a really good. He's in a great sketch comedy group up here in Canada called Hunks. They're really funny. If you can track down their stuff online, they're great. But
Interesting.
yeah, he did a voice for one of the documentaries I directed, and he just has such a cool, unique voice. So I think that was largely I can't speak for them because I wasn't the one casting it, but I think
Mhm.
largely they were picking these people with really nice, cool, unique voices.
Interesting. Huh? Yeah. No, I looked on IMDb and I see you've also worked either on or with projects with a lot of the other voice cast. The one that stuck out to me was Jeff Hughes, who voiced Liwa in this.
Yeah, my IMDb is a mess. My IMDb credits are spread over three different William Jordans. I've been trying to get them to correct it. It's been a process. My agent's gotten in contact with them. I've gotten in contact with them. We're trying to sort that out. Yes, I have worked with him before. I've never met him. Weirdly,
What?
we don't. The interest. One of the things about voice acting that makes it kind of a challenge is, like I said, you're not actually interacting with the other actors. You're going into a booth by yourself and you go line by line, at least most of the time. Sometimes the director will decide that they want that kind of dynamic
Mm-hmm.
where they'll have the whole cast there, but most of the time it'll just be you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a whole bunch of people that I've worked with lots of times but have never met. I just sort of but yes, he's one that I've been in a couple things with.
Okay, fair enough. That kind of leads into my next question, which was, I see this often. A lot of voice actors, which are known for a lot of different cartoons or movies or so on and so forth, that are on projects, kind of like on a team or story wise linked together somehow. They'll often appear in a lot of other shows together. Do you find yourself doing that with a lot of the staff that worked on this, or is it kind of just happenstance?
Well, a lot of those people would have been brought together by Da Capo, which is a studio, and
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes what they'll do is a project will come, and Da Capo has a bunch of people who they like to work with. So yeah, Da Capo will have called me, and they'll call other people who they know can deliver what they want. So
Mm-hmm.
as a result, there's going to be a lot of overlap for everything done through them. There's going to be a lot of like I'm going to have worked with a lot of similar people through a bunch of the projects that I've done.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. That's perfectly understandable. Because, like, in my head, not being on the in and in and whatnot, I'm thinking you guys are just constantly, like, having a good time hanging out, picking out projects, and then going and doing them together. But, that's a very outsider looking in kind of perspective.
Yeah, that would be great. That's sort of what theater and film are like. Like when you're in auditions, you're seeing the same people in the audition room a lot. You're sort of all, a lot of people you meet who you've worked with before. I find with voice acting because it's very solitary. It's usually just you and the guys behind the board. And then
Mm-hmm.
afterwards, you'll be like, "Oh, so who else was in this? Oh man, Quinn was in this. Great, that's awesome. He'll do great in that." That's sort of more how it is. Like you ask as you're going out talking to the technician, "Hey, so who else? So who's playing this role?" That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. That.
Sometimes it's not. Like I said, sometimes it is exactly like that. Sometimes they do it like a radio play style, and you get to interact with the cast. But most of the time, it's just you and your imagination.
Yeah, I know that at the very least, one of the other shows that Lego runs, the very popular Ninjago on Cartoon Network, they
Hmm.
have all the main characters in one booth.
Oh, that must be fun.
It looks like it.
Yeah. Actors getting together will goof around a lot, so I'm not sure how much they get done, but it would probably be a super fun day.
Yeah, I cannot imagine that a whole lot would be achieved without a director in that instance.
Yes, yeah, it would be slower, but what you sacrifice with speed, you gain again in you can't you can try your best using imagination of what the other person will be. You can't replace being able to work off another actor.
Hmm.
It's it's just there's nothing that can beat it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's definitely something I found in my amateur attempts. Makes a lot of sense. Well, if I'm ever able to, I need to get a hold of Jeff because I definitely have the aforementioned tongue-in-cheek kind of issue I have with him isn't necessarily how he sounded. No, it's the fact that I needed to be Liwa, and now I just it's a fan thing. I need to have a Liwa off with him. I'll make it a big deal.
Well, this is a fight I'd like to see.
Oh yeah, no, I've done too many fan projects. He can't reject me. No, I digress. So, in your experience, what has been one of the more enjoyable and kind of unique aspects to not only this project in specific, but just in general, voice acting, something that you might not have considered that you would like to kind of preface, but you really do enjoy pertaining to this?
Pertaining to acting in general as sort
Yeah.
of a profession?
Yeah.
Well, for me, what really got me is it's sort of like hardcore pretend. Like this is like extreme pretend. Like when you play pretend as a kid,
Yeah.
it's sort of like I've never entirely grown up with that. And this is like that except like to the highest level. Like when you go onto a movie set or a theater stage, there will have been people who have spent hours, who it is their job, it is their vocation to make that set look as convincing as possible. There is somebody who puts you in clothes to make you feel as much like this other person as possible. Your hair is done, your makeup is done, and then you go on set, and there will be another person equally committed to being another person as you are. And it makes it so easy to lose yourself into another world. It's like a vacation from yourself. It is exactly what playing playing Star Trek in the sandbox, playing with action figures is like, except in this like really in this really high class level.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to beat that.
That makes sense. I will say you did miss a great opportunity, say, playing with Lego, but still.
Playing with Lego in the sandbox, you're right.
I guess
I had Star Trek action figures as a kid. This is just where my mind went.
that makes sense. Yeah, no, I
And
understand.
Star Trek Discovery is filming right near me, and
Oh.
I'd kill to be on it just because I think that would be sort of like the next level to playing with Captain Picard in my sandbox.
Yeah, no, that's a lot how I look at Lego. Like if I can get a gig working as a voice at Lego, it's come full circle at that point.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Makes a lot of
Lego
sense.
was very much yeah, that's I can't believe I didn't say that because that's exactly what it was. It was exactly like playing with Lego with doing Lego Bionicle, except in this high class level.
Yeah,
It was the most fun. It was high class playing pretend.
makes sense. That makes perfect sense, and it really puts an interesting perspective to it. Although I do have to ask on a personal level, you're Star Trek, not Star Wars?
Well, when I was little, yeah, I start the channel that we have here in Canada. There's this channel called CBC.
Mm-hmm.
It's and when I got home, they would always have Star Trek and Doctor Who on when I got home. So that was the sort of things that I grew up with.
Okay,
That was the sci-fi that I had.
fair enough.
As a tangent, Canada's culture is sort of this mix between like our media is very much taken from America and England, sort of in equal parts.
Mm-hmm.
So that was sort of the CBC, the Canadian channel's version of that. Like they sort of took the sci-fi icon from America right after the sci-fi icon from Britain, and that was what Canadian media is like.
Honestly, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, Canada's always kind of been maybe a little bit of an intermediary between the two.
Yeah, well put. We feel like that sometimes. We're the little brothers to both of you.
Fair enough. We'll take it. We can accept it.
Yeah.
All right. So in that case, if I asked you about how you felt about The Last Jedi, I wouldn't hear anything that I wouldn't expect, or did you love it? No.
Uh, you know what? I saw it in a theater that had shaky chairs,
Oh.
and it rained and it snowed. Like it was like this really like it was this really kind of like theme park ride kind of theater. So yeah, like when they went to the, I guess it wasn't a snow planet. I guess it was an ash planet. It started to snow in the theater when it was raining. It rained
Oh my
when
gosh.
Luke Skywalker was getting some milk from a big space cow.
No.
It sprayed some water in my face.
Ah!
So on that level, I enjoyed The Last Jedi just because it was such a weird theatrical experience.
Ah, gosh, I didn't like that milk scene. Just watching it on a computer, there's no way I would have
Can you
accepted
imagine?
with that level of immersion.
Hey man, it brought you right into it. You felt that you were right there when Luke was spraying milk out of a space cow.
No, gosh, that's awful. Ugh.
It was awfully great. I think that was what you mean to say.
Ah,
But in all honesty, the spaceship stuff when it was flying, the chairs sort of moved in sort of waves, and it was actually kind of a, for a movie like Star Wars that's trying to be sort of a roller coaster ride anyway. It kind of made it fun.
huh. All right, yeah, I can kind of understand that aspect. Sans the milk. That's perfectly reasonable. I figure you've seen most of the new Star Trek movies in that instance. I've only seen the first one of the J.J. Abrams films. I don't know how the other two
Yeah, yeah,
are.
yeah. Yeah, there's a time and a place for that kind of stuff. Like I said, this was just sort of like you can never shake your passions as a child. So I did see them and, had mixed responses. But,
Hmm.
you got to see what Kirk and Spock are up to these days. But mostly why I brought that one up
Hmm.
is because, like I said, Discovery is filming close to me, and I would just have so much fun getting on set in any capacity playing some kind of alien. Just because that's a world that I pretended to be in as a kid, it would sort of be a interesting full circle, as you put it,
Mm-hmm.
to get to play in that world as an adult.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Is there any way that the guild that you do work with, you can contact them and say, hey, are they auditioning? Do they need anything?
Oh yeah, well I have an agent here, so yeah, I'm gonna try to audition one of these days. We'll get in there.
All right, good. When that does happen,
Yeah,
let me know.
fingers
I want to watch
fingers
that.
crossed. Fingers crossed for me. Yeah.
If it doesn't work out, we'll try and start a petition.
Yes.
Change.org.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Like even if it's just an extra gig walking around in the background, that would make me endlessly happy.
Yeah, fair enough, because then at least you can say you were there, you were
Yeah.
in it.
That's yeah. And like I said, you can convince yourself you're in that world. You're in the set. You're in the space. You're in the costume. Robert De Niro said that the character for him appears as soon as he puts on the shoes. And it's kind of like that. I sort of have a similar feeling like when you look in the mirror and you no longer see you, you see the character. Like people have worked very hard to sort of get you in that zone.
Hmm.
It's funny how quickly you melt away and you're sort of in a different world.
Interesting. And so that's a very interesting perspective. Did you? I'm sure I know the answer to this one, but when you were in the recording booth working for, in this instance, Journey to One, did you ever have like one of the figures kind of standing like right in front of you?
We had drawings,
Oh.
and but each of the characters definitely had a physicality in mind. I
Hmm.
would I would make up props to that they hold because that's sort of like the prop makes sense in my head, just in my head when I'm playing it. So yeah, like I would mime actions and I would do that kind of thing. You know, anything you can do to get into your world, into that world.
Yeah.
A funny story. I told this one on the other podcast.
Hmm.
I just it was fresh then, but I was doing this Warhammer video game, which is another world that you can sort of really dive into. It has another huge fan base and really intricate backstory.
Hmm.
But the guy was a pilot, one of the characters I was playing, and just in my head to get it right, I had to have a control panel in my brain, and I was using the stand where I had my script is sort of like a computer panel to fly the ship in my head, and it was making tapping noises on the mic. So they're just sort of like, "Can you just fly the ship somewhere else?" It was, but I totally didn't realize I was doing it. It was just sort of one of those, I just was getting really into flying the ship. It was, yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. So I hope you get to do it one day. I'm going to wish you the best.
Oh,
And if there's again anything, any other advice or anything I can do to help, I'll be happy to. I'm always happy to help out another potential starving artist.
oh, I would greatly appreciate that because I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Obviously, I've been in a lot of different amateur, very fan projects, mostly as the aforementioned Liwa, being in the BIONICLE community. And I know I can do it. I've been doing a ton of research. I got the microphone. I'm all good to go. Need that roadmap.
Perfect. Excellent.
Which I
Yeah.
figure that actually does kind of bring me to my next kind of general question for aspiring voice actors, which, as I mentioned much earlier, there are plenty of in the Bionicle and kind of overall LEGO communities. What would be the one word of advice you would give to them that maybe you would have wanted on the road to becoming a voice actor?
I would say to that. Oh, that's a good question. I would say start from the beginning. Like start doing plays, start doing something like because one of the things that really gets you to being a good actor is doing it. There can't actually really be a replacement for it. So theater's a really great way to start because you're working with the other actor. The other actor's there. It's all in linear sequence. Because one of the challenges of voice acting and film to a lesser extent is that your characters will have arcs. They'll have ups and downs and these kind of waves. And it's so out of sequence when they do it in film and voice acting. But in a play, you get to feel it. You get to just feel it naturally, and it will develop because obviously, if you do a scene all in one go, you're going to feel that flow. So if you're really starting, I would say either find an amateur theater company or just find a space and put on a play with friends and charge $5. That's that's how I would start if you're really at the beginning. And if you have that kind of like acting experience under your belt and you're trying to move into voice acting, start a demo. Like find some monologues you like, find a couple very distinct characters and send it around. See what agencies think. See what take some classes. See how you can improve. And that's what I would say. For voice acting in particular, one bit of advice that I would give, it's more like theater than like film. If you take a film class, film is the most different of the three mediums just because you can get away with doing so much less in film. Like a look can say what you need a gesture to say on stage, So I would say, err toward how you're feeling, like just let your feelings out in a very big cathartic way. See how it sounds, and if it's too big, you can always dial back from there.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right, well that is some great advice. All right, in that case, I'm going to go ahead and open things up to questions. So if you have a question,
Sure.
Anybody listening, you may send it over on Twitter at the Eljay Johnsen. Remember that final O is an E. And if you don't want to go over there or you don't have an account, right here on YouTube, there's a live chat. Ask away. But in the meantime, while we wait for those to kind of come in,
Sure.
I figure this is more kind of a generalized background. How familiar are you with maybe even Lego in general? Not even specifically Bionicle, since we already just established that.
I would say mildly, in that I know I had some Legos as a kid. I know of its I know of its huge cultural stamp on the world. But if it gets too niche, I might not know what's going on.
That's understandable. Yeah, Lego has grown quite
Yes,
large with a lot of different branches.
yes. In that I know what Ninjago is. I know a little bit about it, but I probably won't know the intricacies of it.
Are you telling me you're not going to know the very specific instance in which Lloyd, the Green Ninja, he defeats his father, Lord... Yeah, no, I totally understand.
Yes, exactly. Like if, yeah,
It makes perfect sense. Let me see.
like that Simpsons when in the Itchy and Scratchy video game, like that sort of thing. I might not entirely know.
Yeah. All right, here's a question. I figure I'll kind of preface this because we will probably have some people with line requests. I won't ask those
Sure.
if you don't want to do those.
Oh, I can do those. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, I'll get to that one in just a second then. We do have a question here from Jay Higgins. He asks,
Sure.
William, what character would you want to voice the most? Anything, like, doesn't have to be Lego or anything.
Oh my goodness. Um. Oh wow, that opens up the doors. I've always really wanted to do a period drama in some way. I would have said, bar none, Sherlock Holmes a few years ago, but now we have so many great Sherlock Holmeses that I think it would intimidate me a little bit. But yeah, something period. I would really like to dive into the past, something medieval, something like a fantasy series or something like that. I'd like to play a dragon, something like that.
All right, so first
A
Sherlock
dragon
Holmes.
or a wizard, something like that. That would be fun.
So first you want to say Sherlock Holmes, now a dragon.
That would have been bar none. That would have been bar none Sherlock Holmes a few years ago. But like I said, now we have Cumberbatch and Robert Downey Jr., and he's so present in the public mind, played by a lot of really great actors. And that would be like throwing my hat into that ring is big shoes to fill.
I don't know, man. I think you could probably hunt down Benadryl Cumberbund and like wrestle him for the role. I think that's how it worked out. I think you could.
Yeah, I think that's how it works. Is the Holmes fight it out.
Yeah, I mean, just watch the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes and see how he does that kind of martial arts stuff. It'll work out.
Done. Okay, so we'll have a brawl. We'll have a Holmesian brawl.
Well, heck, there was that story recently. I think was it Benedict Cumberbatch. I think he stopped like a mugging.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, that would. You're right. I can't go against him. He stopped a mugging.
Ah, dang. Ah, well. So we have a question here from Spirit, who you may be familiar with. He asks, did Journey to One have a different ending originally, and did you come in to record new lines? Also, tell William I said hi.
Hello. Tell him I said hi back. Is he listening
I
at
hope
this moment?
so.
Okay, then I'll just say hi. Hi.
I believe he's the gentleman you spoke with on the BS1 interview.
Yes, I know. It's good to speak to him again in this indirect manner. Yeah, I actually don't know. This was the scene that I got and the only version that I recorded. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what was going on in the writing room.
Okay. Fair enough, because yeah, we've heard a rumor that it was originally one ending, but because Lego canceled the line, it cut it short.
That may be the case. This is the only one I saw.
Okay. Fair enough. We have a question here. I feel like this one, might be a little straightforward. Anthony Wynn asks, "Oh Lord William, who is thou favorite Lego franchise / theme?"
Well, it would have to be Bionicle, wouldn't it? It just would have to be. Yeah, Bionicle. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, that's the correct answer. That's the only right one here.
Yeah, yeah.
It's understandable. Coco.
Also,
Oh,
I liked his Shakespearean vibe there.
yeah. Kind of a reference back to that kind of period piece.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's perfect. Let's see. Next question here is from Coco, and they ask, "Did you try to familiarize yourself with the characters when you auditioned?"
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did. That was sort of when I did the research. Was when as soon as I got the scripts, I started to research the world and who the characters were.
Perfect. All right, we have a question here over on Twitter. And this is from Mr. 55 Productions. That's a lot of productions. And he asks, William, what is your preferred type of mood for voice acting? I don't know what the terminology is, he says. Examples: enraged, emotional, comedic, etc.
Interesting one, Mr. 55 Productions. Whew. Playing Enraged is fun. It's very cathartic. Um, you can get a lot of stuff out by playing Rage. So I'm going to go with that one. It's counterintuitive because rage isn't necessarily a pleasant emotion, but man, it's like punching a pillow getting to yell into a microphone.
I can relate to this one. I 100% agree. That's a fantastic answer.
It hurts the throat if you do it for too long,
Oh, yeah.
but it's yeah,
Like, you've done that part where, like, if you're shouting, there's a certain range where your vocal cords, they're just kind of vibrating at this kind of almost guttural sound, and it just stays, and it's not hurting you, but it's just this nice kind of consistent, almost rumbling. It feels how lava bubbling looks.
totally. And do you know what? If you have to yell for prolonged periods of time, there are ways to get it not to hurt, like little tricks. However, sometimes they like voices that are very destructive on the vocal cord.
Of
Makuta,
course.
for example.
Oh.
Makuta is not good for your throat to do for as long as I was doing it. But there's only one way to get that sound.
Yeah. No, that is true. I know that a lot of people, when they're kind of talking for long stretches of time, especially comedians I'll see on stage, they'll have like a glass of water. Do you ever have any kind of a beverage to help soothe your voice while you're in the booth?
Sorry, I was just my phone got another call there. Sorry, I missed that question.
Oh, no problem. When you're in the booth, do you ever have kind of a beverage, like, say, maybe some tea, water, milk, to kind of help soothe your voice in between lines?
Yeah, if it's a really harsh voice, you do something with lemon and honey. I
Ooh.
think Andy Serkis when he was doing Gollum, which is an incredibly destructive voice to do, like that guy must have been in agony. He had this really interesting throat concoction. If you're thinking of doing a lot of if you know you're going to be doing a lot of damage, honey and lemon. If otherwise, water is really nice.
Interesting. Yeah, I've heard of Circus's kind of concoction drink, and it sounds delicious. Like, I need to try, maybe without the alcohol, but get all the other components together.
Yes, yeah, but like I said, he was doing a voice gonna that was
Mm-hmm.
really gonna pummel him.
Yeah,
But normally, I just go with room temperature water
it's understandable. Okay.
and enormous amounts of it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what they say. Stay hydrated, especially when it's warm outside.
Yes, yes.
All right, we're gonna get to where we're kind of coming toward the end here. However, this next question is from Mootroid X Productions. More productions. Would you ever voice audiobooks?
Oh, I'd love to voice audiobooks.
Hmm.
Yeah, totally.
I'm glad you gave that answer because you have a really good kind of almost a very soothing audiobook esque voice. I could totally hear that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, if anyone hired me to do an audiobook, I'd totally do that.
Do you have a preference? Is there any book that you would like really like to voice?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a really interesting question. What book would I really like to voice? Again, I'm going to have to go with something in the past, something medieval. Canterbury Tales, maybe. Uh, Maybe some Victorian Edgar Allan Poe.
Hmm.
And you know what? Maybe, okay, maybe I could do. You know what? I was going to say Sherlock Holmes again, but Stephen Fry does the complete Sherlock Holmes now. Derek Jacobi. I'm not going to step into the Derek Jacobi Stephen Fry realm.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots I'd like to do.
Fair enough. That's good.
But honestly, I've never done an audiobook, so probably if anybody hired me to do one, I'd leap at the chance just to try it. It's something I've never done.
Yeah, that's fair. Get it for the experience.
Totally.
Amongst, other things, like money.
Yes.
All right. Let me see. We got a few more here. Anthony Wynn once again asks, do you like Greek mythology? And if so, do you have a favorite god/goddess?
I love Greek mythology. Bringing up Stephen Fry, he was doing a play in Toronto recently where he was telling Greek myths. I told Greek myths to kids for years. Favorite god or goddess? That's an interesting one. I'll go with Athena. I like her.
Makes sense.
I like her style.
Fair enough.
Well, she's cool because she's the goddess of wisdom. She's the goddess of war, but the really smart side of war. She's just a cool lady.
Yeah, like a better Ares.
Yeah, she's like the smart version.
Yeah. I can perfectly understand. All right. Let me see. So, I love this name. Sushi Yoda asks,
kudos on the name Sushi Yoda.
Will you consider looking more into the story of Bionicle?
Yeah, totally. Anything for Sushi Yoda. I'm totally on board with anything that guy says.
That's fantastic. So, when you're choosing your online name, it's very important. You got to get a really good one. It goes a long way.
Yeah, man. Sushi Yoda's taken, so now I feel like it doesn't get better than. So it's just all going to be. It's all downhill from here. Anything I choose now, that's the high bar. I'm going to have to be like, it's a good name, but it's no Sushi Yoda.
Raw fish golem. Yeah, there we go. That'll work.
That's good. That's good.
Oh,
what did
boy.
Sushi Yoda think of The Last Jedi? That's what I want to know. Have you considered interviewing Sushi Yoda?
Well, I am now.
Okay, right.
Sushi Yoda, that's your question for today. What do you think of The Last Jedi?
Okay, if he types what he thinks, you have to let me know.
Okay, fair enough. If you can do it before the end of this episode, I will read it on air, and
great.
We'll have it here. In that case, but while he does that, we'll have these last two questions. Nuparuz asks, I don't know if this was asked before, however, before getting the role of Makuta, Ekimu, and Onua, did you audition for any other roles prior for the Journey to One?
No, I auditioned for just Onua and Ekimu. The other ones, they cast me as, and they just sort of, those were just ones that were like, okay, he can probably do these ones. So yeah, those were given to me when I got the gig.
Wow. Okay, fair enough then. That's fascinating. Okay. In that instance, there was one line request. If you would be
sure
willing, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Whose voice is it?
It would be Onua's.
Okay.
And you saw Bionicle Mask of Light. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that one scene in Onukoro, the kind of underground Earth City, where the Rakshi, they attack, and Onua in that film goes, "Welcome to Onukoro," as he's just like hammering the ground with his fists?
Okay. Not exactly. I don't remember that exact line, but I remember the vague scene.
Okay, so yeah, he's just really enthusiastically, he's putting his all into just making this giant earthquake. He's going, "Welcome to Onukoro," and he just plasters the ground. That is his voice.
Sorry. Welcome to Uno Cora.
Fantastic. Now I'm expecting to see some individuals and take that and kind of put it over the the scene in the movie as kind of a nice juxtaposition.
Great. Well, I'll revoice the whole movie. It'll just be me talking to myself.
I'm sorry, but I can partially let you do that. I need to. We've established this. I got to be
Done. Okay, you can be Liwa.
excellent.
Done.
Yeah, I gotta get a hold of Jeff. Gotta get him in here. All right, listen, buddy. Could you say "wind fly"? Haha, not never. Better than I can. Didn't think so. You probably can. Instead of talking to him, I'll just talk to myself the entire time.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to listen in on that episode for sure. That sounds like a good one.
Excellent. Oh, okay. Sushi Yoda. He's come through.
Oh my God! Thank you, Sushi Yoda.
All right, so
I can't wait.
he says this. I thought it was fun and enjoyable. Definitely better than The Force Awakens, in my opinion. It had some really cruddy moments, though, especially with one particular character. I liked Rey better than the last movie, too. Additionally, milking scene was weird as well.
Okay, you won me over, Sushi Yoda. That's perhaps I was just blinded, literally, by water being sprayed in my face during the milking.
It was terrible. It was awful. It's like, why the obtruse detail, and why did it have to be there? Why was it Luke?
He was really enjoying that milk, and I had it in my face. It was, yeah.
Oh, gosh, I feel bad that happened. Not only like,
Do you know what? It was. I was impressed with how graphic it was. I was like, as I was wiping off fake milk from my face, I was like, that was. I'm glad, like, they went there.
oh, God.
When going to a Disney movie, a Disney Star Wars movie, I didn't expect that I would get milk in my face today, but they subverted my expectations. So.
I can't. It was difficult enough for me to experience it visually. I don't know if I could have gone beyond that.
4D, man. It's where it's at.
Ugh. Gosh, at least they didn't try and replicate the smell.
No, although
No.
don't give them ideas.
Ah, dang it. Well,
When young Obi-Wan, when we go to see whatever the next Star Wars movie is, and it's all milk and space cows, and the odor is unbearable, it'll be you who gave them the idea. So
great. Well, I need I need a written agreement in that instance. I need royalties from this idea now.
yeah, I mean, you're gonna get rich off it. Like you're gonna get all the royalties.
Yeah.
Space cow smell. Patent it now.
Of course. I mean, George Lucas didn't make the majority of the money off the film. He made it off of the toys.
Yeah, exactly. Stinky Space Cow the toy.
Oh, great.
Now bring the experience of seeing the movie back home.
With real milking action. Oh, boy.
Perfect.
Oh, gosh.
$1 million idea right there.
With that scarring image in my head, I believe it is time for us to go ahead and wrap things up. It has been nothing but a joy speaking with you today. I hope the same has been true for you.
Thank you. I had lots of fun. We'll do it again sometime.
That sounds great. You're welcome back anytime we can actually schedule it.
Perfect. I look forward to it. Thank you for listening, Internet. Until next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe this is a little bit of a prefacing. Is there anywhere on social media you would like people to follow you? Any projects you have coming up you want people to watch? Anything of that sort?
Ooh, not yet, but I am currently working on a web series. When it gets closer to its end, I'll let you know. I got a part in a web show called Nikola Tesla Saves the World, so that's coming up soon. I'm going to film that one next week. Yeah, that one should be fun.
No kidding.
So yeah, I'll let you know when all these things are coming closer to fruition.
Fantastic. Yeah, let me know. I'll start sending blasts out, and we'll have you on again to talk about them.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you. It's been a pleasure. And thanks to everyone who has listened in, be it live or the recorded version. And thanks to anyone who sent in any questions. And a very, very special thanks to Swart and Spirit over at Biosector 01 for helping set all this up. I cannot thank you enough. It has been just such a joy. And we'll do it again yet another time. So thank you all very much for listening. This has been yet another episode of The Eljay Johnsen Show. It airs every single Saturday at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, unless specified otherwise, over on Twitter at The Eljay Johnsen. Make sure to follow me over there for updates to the show and guest announcements every Tuesday. If you have any questions over the week, send them over to ljjohnson@gmail.com. That's everything. We'll see you all next time, and have a fantastic day.